All right, today we're going to be detectives. We are cracking a 2,000-year-old code, and our main clue is this incredible structure of brick and stone. It holds the key to a massive shift in how people thought about, well, everything. So let's jump right in. So, picture this. On a quiet hilltop in central India, you've got the Great Stupa at Sanchi. And yeah, it's gorgeous, but it's also a total puzzle. How can a simple mound, built so long ago, actually tell us a story, a really complex story, about life, death, and enlightenment? That's the big question we're tackling today. You know, even back in the 1800s, people knew this place was special. The local ruler, Shah Jahan Begum, even wrote about how fascinated visitors were. It wasn't just another pile of old rocks. You could feel it had this incredible history, something really important. So let's officially begin our investigation. We're going to treat the stupa like a mystery novel, a silent storyteller, and our job? It's to learn its language. Okay, so these are the big three questions. First, what in the world is a stupa? Second, why would anyone go to all the trouble of building it? And maybe the most fun part, what are all these amazing detailed carvings trying to tell us? To figure out the what, we've got to start with the why. To really crack the code of Sanchi, we need to hop in a time machine. We're going back to the mid-first millennium BCE, a time when the world was just buzzing with radical, world-changing ideas. Now, this is what's so cool. The ideas that led to Sanchi didn't just pop up out of nowhere. This was a global awakening. You had Zarathustra in Iran, Kangxi in China, Socrates and Plato in Greece. All over the world, thinkers were challenging old beliefs. It was this incredible moment of philosophical change, and India was right at the heart of it. So in India, this meant a big shift. People started moving away from the older traditions, which often involved big group sacrifices to gain things like more cattle or a long life. Instead, a new wave of thinkers started asking these really deep personal questions. Questions like, what's the point of it all? Do we come back after we die? What is reality? The focus was shifting from the community to the individual's own journey. And right in the middle of all this soul-searching, one of the most influential teachers in all of history steps onto the scene, Siddhartha Gautama, the man who would become the Buddha. Now, Siddhartha started out as a prince, completely shielded from any kind of suffering. But then, one day, he ventures outside the palace, and for the first time, he sees an old man, a sick man, and a dead body. It completely shattered his world. But then he saw a fourth sight, a homeless holy man who seemed peaceful, even with nothing. And that was it. That was his inspiration. He left everything behind to find his own answers, and after years of searching, he finally achieved enlightenment. So, what was his big idea? He called it the Dhamma. This wasn't about praying to gods or performing rituals. It was a practical guide to living. The Buddha taught that life is full of change and sorrow, and the way to find peace wasn't through extreme discipline or wild indulgence, but through a middle path. It was all about individual effort. You had the power to end your own suffering. Okay, so now that we have all that background, let's go back to Sanchi. Because now we can actually start to read this incredible storybook carved in stone. But here's where it gets really interesting, a little artistic twist. In the earliest Buddhist art, like what we see at Sanchi, they almost never show the Buddha as a person. So think about that. How do you tell the story of your main character if you can't actually show him? The answer was symbolism. It was absolutely brilliant. The artists at Sanchi created this whole visual language. So when you see an empty seat under a tree, it's not just an empty seat. It represents the exact moment of the Buddha's enlightenment. That wheel, that's his first sermon, kicking off the whole movement. Even the stupa itself is a symbol, representing his final passing. It's just such a clever and profound way to tell a story. You know, the fact that we can even stand here and decode these carvings today is pretty much a miracle. Sanchi's story isn't just about how it was made. It's also about how it managed to survive. To really get how lucky we are with Sanchi, just look at what happened to another amazing stupa called Amaravati. It was found a bit earlier, and its beautiful sculptures were basically stripped off and sent to museums all over the world. Today, Amaravati is just an empty mound. Sanchi, on the other hand, had a totally different fate. And that's the thing. It wasn't an accident. Sanchi survived because of the incredibly smart decisions made by the female rulers of Bhopal, Shah Jahan Begum and Sultan Jahan Begum. When Europeans asked to take the stone gateways to England and France, they said no. They offered them perfect plaster cast copies instead, but insisted the originals had to stay. Just brilliant. And they had support from archaeologists like H. Cole, who argued that it was just wrong to let a country be looted of original works of ancient art. He pushed for preserving monuments right where they were found. And thank goodness he did, because that forward-thinking policy is why we still have Sanchi today. And it's so important to remember, the Buddha wasn't operating in a vacuum. Other thinkers, like Mahavira, who founded Jainism, were also right there in the mix, debating ideas about karma, nonviolence, and how to live a meaningful life. Sanchi was born out of this amazing, buzzing marketplace of ideas. So why do we do this? Why spend all this time trying to crack a 2,000-year-old code? What can a monument like this really tell us today? Well, it's because the Great Stupa is a direct message sent to us from the past. It's more than just art. It's raw data. It's a primary source, a window that lets us see the world through the eyes of people who lived so long ago. It tells us what they cared about, what they believed in, and how they tried to make sense of their world. And I think that's the real lesson of Sanchi. It teaches us to look closer, to be more curious. It proves that even stone can speak to us, if we just take a moment to learn its language. So that leaves me with one final question for you. What stories are hiding in plain sight all around you, just waiting for someone to come along and crack their code?